Good evening, everyone. Just want to do a quick sound check here, visual check to make sure that desktop can be seen here on this end and audio can be heard. My name is Dave Kappert. Okay, in the event that any of you can hear me, yet you're still having visual problems logging in the invite email that was sent out to you, there was a Citrix support website address to go to if you're having problems getting in. I know sometimes you can hear the audio when you're trying to log in, other times you can. It just depends. One of the biggest problems we found on Windows machines is those that are having problems to log in are lacking the latest Java update. So again, if you are in earshot but can't see, go to check out that support page, and we'll go from there. Again, welcome everyone. Thanks for showing up for tonight's webinar, an introduction to MyASE. And there, now you should be live. Screen should be there. And I'm just going to go through tonight's webinar team real quick. I'm Dave Kappert. I'll be presenting the information tonight, but you also have two great co-moderators with us tonight. We have Mike Coley, Vice President of Operations, and Tony Mala, the Vice President of Communications here at ASE. Just want to go over a little bit of housekeeping right now for tonight's event. Your screen displays a viewer window shown on the left for the presentation itself. The content of the presentation appears in this window. During the webinar, you will not be able to speak directly to me. Instead, you can enter any questions you may have in the questions box in the control panel. Make sure that your speakers are turned on and set to a comfortable listening level if you haven't done so already. Now just a couple of notes about mobile devices. One of the things we found is a much higher percentage of people attending with these devices than we had initially anticipated. While using a mobile device certainly offers convenience, it also comes with some compromises. If you're using an Apple iOS device, you can communicate via chat. That is, you are able to, but you cannot respond to polling questions. I apologize for that. On Android devices, you cannot, that means you can't communicate via chat, and you also cannot respond to any polling questions. My understanding is that Citrix, they're working on these issues as diligently as possible to get these corrected because, again, the number of users that are using the mobile devices. And if you don't yet have the specific app for your device, visit the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store for a download. Okay, now I want to reveal a poll. We've got two of them here. And basically I'm asking, have you used MyASE before? Now I just want to make it clear as well that, again, if you're on a mobile device, you're not going to be able to respond to the polling questions. So let's just let this run a second here. I'm basically right now at 57% of the audience tabulated. I can't get 100 again because of the deficit for the mobile devices. Pretty good showing so far. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll out. Looks like those that can were able to vote. Okay. And now I'm going to share those results. And pretty strong audience, higher degree of familiarity than maybe we may have thought. 72% have used MyASE. And again, 28% no. Okay, now hinging on that one, I'm going to launch the second poll. And that is, if you have used MyASE before, did you find it easy to register and schedule your tests? Okay, it looks like we're just about there. And again, the majority look like they did okay. Okay, I'm going to close that poll. Let's share it. And there you see the results. So hopefully we can help out that 10% no and the 30% undecided group with some of the information we're going to reveal tonight. Okay. So I just want to go over the outline of some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. Just going to be talking about the introduction of MyASE and its evolution. ASE was launched initially as a read-only service to look up your ASE records, and that has now since evolved to the point of where it is a fully interactive customer service portal with 24/7 credential management. Both techs and employers can access everything in a single secure online portal where now you can manage almost everything to do with your dealings with ASE. You can register for tests, print out score reports, print admission tickets, pay any balances, receipts, review your certification history, order certificates, manage mailings, and more. Employers are also able to verify technician ASE status, register technicians, manage accounts, and more. We're going to be showing a couple of scenarios tonight for MyASE. Again, this is an introductory webinar. MyASE, I'm sorry, has a lot of power and flexibility to it that can get pretty deep once you get into the company account management type of scenario. And then we're going to go over some of your questions that maybe aren't answered in the chat window that might reflect a certain trend or perception related to MyASE. Okay, ASE has developed, prepared, and offers on ASE.com, and there will be a list of some resources shown at the end of this webinar of different tools that you can use to get to learn MyASE a little bit better. And these tools were, again, designed to help, get rid of that 10% of the people that are having issues that may have found it difficult to try to guide you through some of these issues. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to walk through this first tutorial that we've created called How to Create a MyASE Account, because this is really where it all begins. So all things with MyASE begin right at the ASE homepage at www.ase.com. Now in the illustration that you see on your screen, you see our login box on the left. We've since moved it to the right, but the one fact remains is it will always be a persistent element on the page. You can also get to that login at myase.com. Now at the login box there, if you already had an account, you do it, but again, we're showing how to create a MyASE account. So with account matching, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and make sure, see if you are already in the system. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. One of the things that I've heard from our customer service people is that if you in any way, shape, or form have done business with ASE in the past, taken a certification test, registered for tests, you do have a record in MyASE already. So one of the things that we really advise people to do is that anyone who's ever registered, taken tests, at any point you've got an account, please don't create a new one. Even if it has been however many years and you've moved out of state or whatever, probably have a profile in there. If you try to do this and you seem to not be able to find your account, there's probably a common reason, such as your date of birth, social security number, that type of thing, that just don't match up with what's in. At that point, you want to contact us and we'll look into it before you go and create another account that would need to be merged or moved over. So again, contact us is the advice there. Okay, as you're going through and filling out the various information that we ask for on the form, some of it is required fields denoted in the red asterisk. The other stuff can be optional or added later. And for expediency and efficiency, we try to do matching with USPS on your address information to ensure accuracy. And again, this screen again shows that some of this can be added later on. And pay special note to the checkboxes here of release your ASE status to others. That would be in an employee-employer type of situation. If you want to receive ASE news bulletins by email, and special offers from ASE. Now again, on this screen we talked about little details like making sure that you choose a strong password, not maybe your wife or girlfriend's name, that sort of thing. All kind of common sense these days, but you'd be amazed how many people don't use that common sense. And put that password in a safe place somewhere. That doesn't mean laying on the desktop or in plain view. I mean, especially when you get into the situation if the account becomes configured for a company account management type of scenario, and you've got your password in there and you are now a company account manager, that would allow somebody to log into an account and see the profiles of others, which you probably want to keep that confidential.
Hey Dave, this is Tony. What happens if they forget their password? What do they do?
They can, there's a password, I think it's a password reset function. Mike, can you comment on that?
Yeah, there's, on some systems you have to, answer the question and then your password is emailed to you, but the problem with that is a lot of guys find, oh, I don't remember what email account I was using when I signed up for this thing 5 years ago, or I've changed my email account or whatever, so we don't use that at all. What we use is identify yourself online, answer that secret question, what's my favorite color, what's my mother's maiden name, what was my high school, whatever. Answer that question, and then we immediately allow you to reset your password there in real time. We encrypt your password when we store it in our system, so we couldn't even tell you what it is after the fact. So when you reset it, you just have to give us a new password. Or if you're having difficulty online, you can call our customer service, identify yourself to customer service. They will reset it with a temporary password, one-time use only. You log in with that temporary one-time use password, and the system will prompt you then to put in a new permanent password.
And that customer service number is 703-669-6600, right?
Well, there's also the 800 number, 1-800-390-6789, or if you like the mnemonic version, 1-888-ASE-TEST.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Now we're going to do a search to see if maybe your employer is listed in MyASE by using some search criteria. Okay, since it wasn't in MyASE, then it gives you the option to go ahead and then add that company. Once again, we use the Postal Service address matching feature, just again for the basic convenience and accuracy. Okay, company assigned ID is a separate step. We're not going to talk about that here and show that in this little scenario, but we do have a separate little tutorial that shows you how to do that.
And a company assigned ID would be something, for example, if you work for Toyota or another company that has a specific ID number they give their employees.
That's right. So that pretty much covers the steps right there in terms of creating a MyASE account. Now realize that by default, when you start that initial MyASE account, this is going to be for your profile as far as your view for yourself. And as always, we encourage you to log out whenever you're not using MyASE. I believe there's an automatic logout. Is it 20 minutes, Mike, if you were to walk away and we're inactive?
That's correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay, now I'm just
Driveway, Dave.
Yeah, I wish. It doesn't ever stop snowing here, right? Okay, now I'm going to switch gears real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the next one here that got chosen.
While that's opening, it's important to note that any information that you do not wish to be shared from your MyASE account, you can elect not to do that. But remember that if you're participating in a company where they they have their own corporate account, you will need to allow that access in order for them to see your certifications.
Okay, now we're going to go through the scenario of how to register yourself for an ASE test. Once again, everything begins out at the the ASE homepage. Now you'll notice that's a whopper of a list of tests, so sometimes you got to take your time when you're going through the different test selections, and you want to make sure you're in the right test series.
There's some additional information on this screen too that you should be aware of. Notice the length of the test is clearly listed in the second column. And the recertification tests, again, are, you'll note in the far right column, are half the amount of time because they're half the amount of questions. So whenever you're wondering just how much time is allotted for a specific test, you can see it here. And you'll notice the times are different.
Yeah, like, what is it? Preventive maintenance is 75 and then 30, the two different times. And again, here, just to highlight the point that... Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're just doing it. This is an important feature. Notice that it will not allow you to take a test if you're not eligible to do so.
That's right. And one of the other interface designs that we try to include to try to make this process simple was to go with your steps up here in terms of where you're at in the whole process, kind of, as you're rolling the shopping cart down the aisle, so to speak. Now, just one point I want to make real quickly here is that we are, just to be clear, we are in the registration process. Registering and scheduling ASE tests is a two-step process, and we're only in the registration phase right now, which is selecting the tests, arranging payment, that sort of stuff. In the past, back in the old paper pencil days, the two were inherently related to one whole form, but it's important to note that you have to schedule an appointment after you register for your tests. All right, like anything, when you're purchasing something, we want to make sure that you do agree to the terms and conditions before you move forward to the payment screen. So make sure that you take the time to read that, and then all of ASE's policies for computer-based testing. This is an important point right here, is that once you've created a registration, that you have 3 days from the date of registration to cancel any of your tests to get a full refund for it. After that, I believe it's a $20 fee for making any changes. And from this screen, you can also print a receipt. Notice that there's also the link to go and schedule your appointment right now. It's the pretty looking receipt that'll come right out of my ASE. So in this scenario that we're just finishing up here, we will not cover the appointment part of it because that's a separate chunk. But notice that on this screen it shows you that you have unscheduled tests, you have a registration in the system, but the confirmed appointment summary says that you do not have any appointments scheduled for this testing period. And again, log out when you're finished. Okay.
Mike, can you give us a little background on what sort of reminders or prompts they get from ASE electronically once they register to take a test if they don't schedule?
When you register for a test, or if you're an employer and you register some of your technicians for tests, each individual will immediately receive an email to their individual email address confirming, yes, you are now registered and you need to schedule an appointment to take the test. You can schedule an appointment online in MyASE, or you can also schedule an appointment by calling Prometric, and they will take care of all the details for you on the phone and help you find a test center and a date and a time, so on and so forth. Once you have made an appointment, you'll get a second email that has your registration ticket. Very important to, that comes as a PDF attachment, very important to save that to your desktop, print it out, read it, make sure you've got the correct date and time. We frequently have people call us up and say, golly gee whiz, today's Wednesday, I could have sworn my test was today, and when they look at the paperwork, it was yesterday or Monday or last Wednesday. So very important to look at that and make sure you've got the correct date and time on there. And it's got the directions to the test center, all the rules and regulations, all the details about if you wanted to make any changes. Basically, in most cases, you can make changes for 3 days without any penalty online. And then if you purchase a test and you don't make an appointment, 1 week later we'll send you a reminder, gee, you need to make an appointment. And then as the end of the testing window begins to approach, we start reminding people, gee, it's getting close to the end of the month and you still haven't made your appointment, please come on down and make an appointment. So we'll remind you quite a bit as the end draws near.
Mike, I see that there was a question there that in the question box that came in that reminders are only by email. Is that correct?
We're sending out for folks who are coming to the end of their 5-year certification, and so we've traditionally sent out a letter 1 year in advance, and again, if you don't recertify, we'll send you another reminder 6 months in advance. So we're going to continue to do that. I believe for the foreseeable future, it won't be the printed out letter with all the details like we've done in the past, because all the details are there for you online in MyASE. We're just sending you a postcard to remind you you need to recertify, and then you'll also get an email, because a lot of people now are like, you know, a lot of mail doesn't get to me, or if I've moved or whatever, and yet email I get quite readily. So we try to get you both ways.
Although we're not talking about it this evening, there was another question here about testing locations. There is a test center finder on the website that you can go to. Simply plug in your zip code, and it will give you all of the test centers in your area. And you can set the radius of that out to as far as 300 miles if you like. What it'll do is it'll give you a rundown of all the test centers within a 75-mile radius around that zip code that you put in.
Yeah, that's at ase.com/test centers. That is going to be shown on the resources page at the end. So with that, why don't we go ahead and we'll shift gears here then into the appointment scheduling. We've completed the registration now, and again, the scenario is that this is for yourself. This is not for an employee. This is not under a company account management type of scenario. Again, everything begins out at the ASE homepage at ase.com. We've got that persistent reminder that when you log in, it's going to nag you and say you need to schedule these things, get these things scheduled so you complete the other half of it. And we can't stress that point enough. Registration and scheduling are two separate pieces of the whole pie. Okay, so notice just for the point of distinction that we've now shifted over, we've authenticated ourselves over to our testing partner, Prometric, to do the scheduling for the exam itself. Okay, now I'll go ahead and run that a little bit more. It's an important point here about total time allotment. If you'll notice here during this scenario, excuse me, that we went to select all, and what it did is by default, you notice it's grayed out for the tutorial survey. That's required, so that 30-minute is planned right into your appointment time already. Then you'll see that the A1 shows 2 hours, and the A9 is 1 hour and 30 minutes. So that's a combined time that's shown down here for 4 hours and 0 minutes. So that's a combination of these components. Kind of important to pay attention to that when you're taking your tests, because that also can impact the availability of appointments on certain days and times. Tony just talked about the test center locator. It's basically kind of the same thing here that we're seeing as now you're actually in the appointment scheduling part and you're looking for a center in proximity to either where you live or work.
Dave, could you go back for a second?
Sure. Back a slide.
Yeah, just back one slide. I just wanted to point out the available dates and times obviously are the ones that are highlighted on the calendars. You'll notice December is all blacked out because we don't test in December, and some of the dates in October may not be available. So the ones that are highlighted and underlined are the dates that would be available, and then again you select the time.
Okay. Go ahead, Tony.
That was it.
Okay. Okay, so here again, you're going to want to make sure you check all the details that you have for your appointment to make sure it's what you selected as you went through the process. Again, there's multiple steps, and sometimes if you get distracted, you can end up selecting the wrong thing. So you want to make sure that all this is right. If not, you're going to need to back up and make the changes as needed. Okay, so now note you've been bounced back to MyASE, away from Prometric. You get a confirmation screen. And map details, and you can print a registration ticket. And once again, your ticket should reflect the choices you made. Make sure you put this in a safe place so you can reveal and have available to you things to do when you have appointment changes, how severe weather may affect it, so on and so forth. All those details are covered on this.
One of the questions we had was, what do you bring with you to the test center? And I believe all you need is a photo ID and that appointment sheet, correct?
Yeah, in a pinch, you don't even need your registration ticket, but it's a nice thing to have because it gives you the exact location of the test center. It shows what time you're supposed to arrive there, and it's got the phone number of the test center in case you had a question. I can't find the right building or whatever. And one thing to note is your photo ID, the name on your photo ID needs to be a current, not expired, government issued, not a school ID, photo ID with your signature. So a driver's license in most states would be what you would be looking for. But a U.S. passport would work just as well. The name on that ID needs to match the name that's on the registration ticket, which is the name that the folks at the Prometric Center will be wanting to check you in with. So if you've put in your MyASE account Bubba Wilson and your real legal name is John Wilson, when you get to the test center, they will probably not admit you because Bubba Wilson and John Wilson, they don't know that that's the same person. Now, John and Jonathan, that's acceptable. But if people put in nicknames or, they go by their middle name or whatever, that creates a problem. So you need to make sure that when you sign up for your MyASE account, you use your full legal name just the way it appears on your government-issued ID.
Is there anything else there, Tony, on that?
No, that was it. We did have a question regarding, can you bring a list of code definitions into the test? You won't be allowed to bring anything into the testing area except for the key for the locker, if you have to put away some personal effects, and your photo ID. If there is additional materials that you need, for example, if you're taking the L1 test, you will receive that booklet at the test center, but you're not allowed to bring anything into the test center with you.
And I just want to reveal a couple of some kind of closing facts here about MyASE, and then I guess we can take some more questions if there are. One of the things is that a technician can affiliate themselves with an employer in their own profile. An employer cannot see the results of an employee without that employee giving a release. And we showed that checkbox earlier. An employer purchase allows tech or employer to schedule the test appointment. And that would be under a company account management type of scenario. When an employer purchases a test, only the employer can cancel that test. And when an employee purchases a test, only the employee can cancel that test. And any other questions that that we can entertain for tonight on MyASE? There's a lot more detail into MyASE as far as company account management. That might be something that we can offer in a future webinar in terms of configuration and scheduling employees and so on for tests in a third-party type of scenario.
Dave and Mike, I have a question here. It's not exactly about MyASE, but I want to get to Tom. He poses a scenario where an individual would recertify a year before his certification expires. If he fails the test, is he still certified for that final year that he originally certified for, or does that immediately end his certification? Mike, you want to offer a ruling on this?
Yeah, I misread what he was asking there. I thought, would he lose the extra certification? No. If you take the test early and you happen to fail, your certification remains in effect until whatever its regular expiration date was. Some people like to recertify early in case they should fail, that they'll give themselves enough time to come back and try it again. And previously, if you came in a year early, and it's still this way, you would lose the remaining year on your certification. Your new certification starts from the date that you take the test. So if you had a year left, your new certification will be good for still only 5 years, not 6 years, if that makes sense. But the good news is here that certifications typically will expire, let's say, in June, at the end of June. So you can come in January and February and test. And if you pass it then, you haven't lost anything. It's good for 5 more years past this coming June. If you happen to fail in January and February, you can come back and test again in April and May. And if you pass then, you haven't lost anything because it's good through June 5 years later. So now you have 2 chances to take it without losing any time off of the certification.
Mike, to follow up on that, we have a question from David who says, how far in advance can you take a recertification test prior to expiration?
As far in advance as you would like to. I don't know why somebody would come in 2 years later and recertify, but they could if they wanted to.
Okay. But the way the system is set up now, actually recertifying 6 months early would be generally what most people do if they're going to recertify early. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Dave, reviewing the questions here, I think Mike did a great job answering most of the ones that we have online. Again, the one about what to bring with you to the test center, just your ID, is all you really need. We also encourage you to read carefully the instructions about what to expect at the test center. In fact, Dave, there are other tutorials, I believe, on the website available to help individuals understand the ASE testing process, right?
That's correct. Right now we have a total of 7 tutorials available. And in fact, on that note, here are some resources for you to look at. Everything from the ASE website. Pretty good page there on prior to registration, as far as details to know about before you have that all mapped out before you get into the registration and scheduling aspects of walking through the site. The test center locator, the demos that Tony just mentioned, those are in the MyASE section. If you can excuse the long URL there, but if you just go to ASE.com, MyASE, and then there's the how-to demos, that's where those are. We also have some stuff on YouTube, and working on the possibility of even getting these tutorials loaded to YouTube if it's feasible. And then also just some good details overall on the computer-based testing program. So we have that. One of the comments I also wanted to make here as we come down the finish line is that there is an exit survey that you'll be presented with as soon as we finish up here, asking you about what you think about MyASE in terms of its use. And if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes of doing that, we'd sure appreciate that, because that'll help us out in making MyASE better. And just as a reminder, spring test registration is currently underway through May 21st, and the spring test dates are April 1st through May 31st. And I want to say thank you to everyone for spending your treasured evening time with us, and hopefully we've helped spread the word a little bit about MyASE and chip away at that 10% that we saw on the poll earlier. Any closing comments, guys?
I see we still have a few questions online, and we'll stay online for a few minutes if people want to hang around, and we'll answer all those questions that are out there.
There is one question that we can talk about, I guess. Any recommendations how an employer can communicate to employees to give access to their profile? Or any tips on how we can play a more active role with all employees with ASE profiles?
One thing, if the and we tried to make ASE or MyASE set up so that if you have a real proactive shop manager or store owner that wants to actively manage the profiles on behalf of their employees, you can do that using the company portal. And I think, Dave, we're planning to schedule a future webinar focused on the company side of the house in MyASE, so we'll let folks know when that's coming. And then the flip side of that is, if you want to make your technicians be responsible for looking at their own information and being proactive about managing their own accounts and whatnot, you can certainly do that. And the best thing you can do is point them toward these tutorials that we have available on the website. They can review this webinar as well as the tutorials that are out there. And any questions that they have, they're more than welcome to shoot us an email or give us a call. Customer service is ASEhelp at ASE.com, or call us at 1-800-390-6789. Select option 9, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
And one final comment, I guess. There was a question I know that you answered, Mike, online regarding appointment times shown in the example. Those were only examples. We showed 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Mike's answer kind of covered it, but the appointment times vary from one test center to another. But here's an important tip. If you don't see the time that you want when you go to register, look deeper into the testing window. Sometimes there may be more evening hours or weekend hours available if you schedule the test a little bit further out, maybe 2 or 3 weeks out. So just remember that you have 8 weeks worth of time to schedule your test, and of course, just like booking an airline seat, the earlier you do it, the more choices that you'll have. And Dave, that seems to be all the questions we have at the moment. This has been recorded and will be available online, is that correct?
I didn't hear Dave's answer there. I think the answer is yes.
I'm sure the answer is yes.
Yes, that's true. I was going to say. I was. Yeah, exactly. But no, that's a good point, Tony. We, in an effort to try to spread the word to as many people as we can with these events, that's exactly what we're doing, especially as we try to work across multiple time zones. So these are posted. This one, there will be a follow-up email that will go out, and any of the archived ones that preceded this particular webinar are on the ASE website under the news and events, and then it's multimedia, and you'll see them listed there.
And as always, any questions that you have, please feel free to call ASE Customer Service at any time. We'll be more than happy to help you in any way we can. And with that, Dave, I think we're just about done here.
Okay, gentlemen, and thanks for everyone for attending tonight again. Hopefully this has helped with MyASE, and as Mike had said moments ago, looks like this has set the groundwork that we'll offer another one on MyASE, but we'll go a little bit more in depth with company account management role and some of the scenarios that can play out there. So again, thanks for your interest and using MyASE and your support of the ASE program.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone, and good night.